As I'm sitting in the woods and I'm thinking aloud, I'm looking at the different characteristics of the components of the woods. As I said earlier, there is a gigantic tree standing like a stalwart in front of me, many years old, supporting several vines, supporting the weight of several branches, supporting weight of million leaves, all that. So sometimes I think, what would I want to be? I want to be like a tree trunk which is so solid, so strong, and so self-sufficient in standing against the winds of the nature and all the storms and all that. It will withstand that. So that's what I would want to be. Would I want to be a vine which goes around it and it has to depend on the strength of the tree trunk to survive? Would I ever want to be? Sometimes I thought maybe I would not. I would rather be independent. But then as I think deeper, I think I'm choosing one characteristic of one component of a jungle versus the another component. For example, the vine goes all over the tree, but then it's its own technique to survive and creates its own flowers, its own seeds. Even the leaves, the branches which are hanging on a gigantic tree, they spread out, ultimately looking for sunlight so that more nourishment can be created and fed back into the roots of the tree. The tree trunk cannot do all these things by itself. Even though it is so strong, it looks self-sufficient, but it's still not adequate to manufacture food for the planet. So, to me, the whole world is interwoven. Every attribute that I see in a person, if I start choosing attribute of one person and start hating attributes of another person, I'm choosing. We don't realize that it's the same molecules which are present in the soil. They travel upwards, and some of them stay in the trunk to make the trunk. Some of them go further higher and they go in the leaves and make the leaves. So the function of the whole tree in totality finds its purpose in having both the components. So having the strength like a tree trunk is not enough. Having the delicate nature of the twigs and the leaves and all that is not enough. Combining both creates a meaningful existence. Same way, in day-to-day life I see some people are like tree trunks. They are so self-sufficient. And there are people who are dependent on them. But the same molecules, food molecules, feed them both. But rather than praising one characteristic and not praising the other, I'm choosing over the components of this sansar. And that's what keeps me in the sansar. Now, if you really look at it, the tree trunk and the branches and the leaves are dependent on each other to have a meaningful existence. But they all are dependent on the soil itself. What if the soil decides not to give the stability? The soil itself is a part of the earth. Earth is dependent on the sun. Sun itself is dependent on its own molecules which are burning rapidly, and someday it will not be anymore, and the new suns will have to be created. So interdependence is a rule of the game. It's just to create the drama. The delicateness, dependence of the tree branches on the tree trunk makes the tree trunk stronger. As more and more branches are being added, the weight starts increasing. If you really combine the total weight of all the branches, all the leaves, and the trunk will say, I have to get stronger to support all these millions of leaves. So the strength increases. The same way, the branches are delicate, not for our purpose of writing poetries and having imaginary thoughts about it. They are delicate so that they don't break when the snow falls or wind comes. By waving in the wind, they are giving in to the wind. So the delicateness also ultimately is the attribute that helps them survive. So ultimate name of the game is survival. Everybody finds their own technique for survival. And why not? Survival ultimately is existing with the nature. Without survival, whole drama of the samsara will come to an end. So all these things are interdependent with a reason, for a purpose. So there is no point in praising somebody, hurting or kind of commenting on somebody, because all these are attributes that ultimately came from the soil. Soil is neutral. Same way, sun is dependent for the planets to be called a sun. Planets are dependent on the sun. Surya Surya hai dharti ke karan, dharti dharti hai Surya ke karan. All this interdependence is a unfolding drama in front of us. But there is one thing that is not dependent on at all anything, kind of, our consciousness. Our consciousness exists by itself. It does not need anybody or anything to exist. Even after the whole world will get destroyed, whole universe will get destroyed, consciousness will be always there and ready to create something else. But as long as the drama goes, the consciousness needs us to manifest itself. Without the mechanism that humans have, consciousness cannot express itself. Well, it can express through the animals, through the leaves, through the branches, through the mountains and the clouds, but they don't have mechanism to understand all these things. Consciousness gave us the ego to realize that we are separate than the rest of the environment. And yet, so which the animals and the plants do not have sense of existence. They don't have ego. So is ego good or bad? Ego is an evolution. It is an important journey into the further, an important step in the journey towards the ultimate enlightenment. Because ego, first of all, will recognize that you are separate than everybody else. But the same ego, when you go within, will take you further and make you realize that you are the same as a part of the total consciousness, total universe. We all are dependent on each other. All these ideas and all that will not come up until you divert your own ego into the search of consciousness, into the search of enlightenment, moksha, nirvana. All these things will not be possible without the ego. So ego is a very important tool if we utilize it in a proper way. Now, as we go further in, if you take the example of the strength of a tree versus the delicate nature of the branches, as you go further in, you will require a lot of strength, a lot of courage to go towards the path of spirituality, to be different than the rest of the crowd, to be on its own. You need fearlessness, and you need the fearlessness of the tree trunk, which is standing against the astronomical storms and everything. And yet at the same time, you're going to need the delicateness of the branches to have karuna, have sympathy for the sufferers, having the karuna for the rest of the world, to realize all this is one. And also the surrendering mode will happen only if you have delicateness in your soul. So yes, you may enter into the samadhi with a state of manhood, but until the womanhood is found within, which we both have, we have both manhood and the womanhood. Everything is within us. So these are the attributes of the male dominant nature and woman dominant nature. We have both. Women can start with bhakti, surrenderfulness, but as they go deeper, they're going to need the strength to move on onto the spiritual journey. Man-like nature people will start, not necessarily man-like nature people will start with fearlessness, courage, and all these things. But ultimately, that kind of heart will have to have love, compassion, affection, karuna, to reach to the destination of totality, where all this drama started. The neutrality, consciousness, the energy is neutral. And that's the final merging point of all this drama. If we learn from this drama, and instead of picking and choosing in this big universal drama, be an observer, and there is a lot to learn. Have a good day.